Am I the asshole for being the reason my parents and brother may become homeless? Let me preface this post by saying I love my family but I can't live with them anymore. I'm a single mom, 34, and I'm doing my best to provide my daughter, 15, with a good life. Right now, my parents, 55, 58, and brother, 32, live with me in a 2-bedroom apartment, which means I share a bedroom with my daughter. I hate it because I want her to have her own space and be a normal teenager who slams their bedroom door shut and mopes around. It's not possible because my parents use the other, bigger, bedroom and my brother sleeps in the living room. My parents are extremely religious and believe God will send them a miracle and they'll have a wonderful, money-filled life soon. The thing is, they've been waiting for this miracle for more than 10 years now. They've been given prophecies and dreams that indicate that God has something big in store for them. In the meantime, my dad lost his job and doesn't work. My mom doesn't work either. Every time I ask them when God will be delivering on those promises, they say, soon, and we just have to be patient. The sad thing is they really believe all that bull. I'm so tired of living with them because we don't get along and my mom and I are regularly in some argument about the dumbest things. I get treated like a child and neither my nor my daughter's opinions are taken seriously. My and my daughter's social lives have suffered because we can't bring anyone to my place as they'll be confronted by a messy living room since my brother isn't the cleanest person and my parents are always at home. My brother has an online writing job, but it takes him weeks to complete his work and he doesn't get paid that much, so he's not contributing to our living costs. My parents don't contribute anything either. My daughter's mental health is also suffering because she doesn't get along with my parents. She tries her best to, because of how obnoxiously religious they are. I know that her anxiety and depression, and my own, will be easier to handle in a healthy way when we're in our own place. I'm planning to move away, but that will mean my parents and brother won't have someone to pay their rent or buy them food anymore. They'll be homeless. Am I the asshole for considering leaving them behind and getting a place for me and my daughter? Edit. I just want to quickly point out that I haven't been taking care of my parents and brother for 10 years. That's just how long my parents have been waiting for their miracle. It's been almost 3 years now, so still too long anyway. Update. First off, thank you to everyone for the encouragement and empathy. To those of you who said I am the asshole for letting things reach this point, you're right. But I'm going to change my daughter's life for the better from now on. So, I spoke to my parents. My mom threw a tantrum and turned it into a poor me situation like she always does, but my dad was surprisingly level-headed. I told them I'll be moving out with my daughter in January and they'll have to make their own plans. I know January is still quite far away, but it gives me time to fix up the second-hand car I have and buy all the stuff we'll need to live on our own. This will be our first time ever being just the two of us. I also told my brother that he needs to sort his stuff out so he can go his own way when I leave because I'm not taking anyone with me. There is some tension now and I expect my mom to make things hard as the time comes closer, but I've made it clear that I won't change my mind. My dad tried to preach and drag God into the mix, but to me it's whatever. I get the feeling they're not taking me seriously, but I don't care. Thank you to everyone who commented. You motivated me to grow a damn spine. It's about time. Not the asshole. I know many will probably go with the religious angle, but that aside, you've put your life on hold to give them a roof over their heads and look after them and they seem to be doing nothing in return. Give them plenty of notice but tell them that nothing will change your mind. It'll be absolute hell as they'll try all sorts of emotional blackmail, but you have to put yours and your daughter's well-being first. It's an awful situation to be in though, so you certainly have my sympathy. Matthew chapter 25. 1430 ESV The parable of the talents. Tell your parents God gave them talents to take care of themselves. They're being passive. God doesn't like that. He's not going to just give them money. They need to be worthy, and not using the talents he gave them is not making them worthy. Maybe that will wake them up. Not the asshole for wanting what is best for your daughter. She is your child and your responsibility. Not your parents, not your brother. Not the asshole, but give them warning. My daughter and I are moving out. While you wait for your miracle, I suggest you both get jobs for the time being. Whatever miracle they're waiting on will either come or it won't, but you don't have to be around for it. Bonus points. This will be a good living example of how to be empathetic while still maintaining boundaries. Not the asshole. You won't be the reason. They will be the reason. Once you move out, what is stopping them renting the premises themselves? It's not you. You are the asshole to your daughter for not doing this a long time ago. Am I the asshole for telling a guy I'm lesbian? So 16 female, I'm a proud lesbian and I have been for a while now. At first I had some confusion in my sexuality as I thought I was bi, but then I just couldn't look at men the same after Kristen Stewart just met my eyes on the flat-screen TV in one of the scenes from Charlie's Angels. Anyways, I was sitting with my friends the other day at school, and while I was with them a boy, we'll call him Adam, came up to me with his friends and he asked if he could speak to me. I smiled and told him sure, so we walked away from our friends. I assumed he needed help with something, but instead he asked me out on a date, and he said he'd been meaning to ask me for a while now because he had a crush on me since he saw me around the school. I told him that while I'm sure he was a nice guy and that he was really sweet for asking, I told him I couldn't go on a date with him. He asked me why not and if there was something wrong with him, and I told him that it wasn't him, it was just that I was a lesbian and wasn't attracted to men like that or at all. As I said this, his friends came out from around the corner and I didn't know they had been hiding there. One of his friends called me an asshole for not being able to reject his friend in a nice way, and Instia's choosing to lie that I'm lesbian. I told him that I'm sorry he feels like I was lying, but I really am not. I just thought it was better to tell Adam the truth rather than to give him false hope. I apologized to Adam again and I went back to my frenny, but now I feel like I could have handled that better. So am I the asshole? Edit. Thank you all so much for helping me. I didn't think that my post would get this many comments, or is it answers? Sorry, I'm new to the whole Reddit terms. I received some sound advice and I've read all the comments, and it feels good to know that I don't owe anybody an explanation and that no is a full sentence. I also wanted to give you all an update on the situation. So today was school and I was walking with my friends on our way to our free period. Irrelevant, but just thought I should add that in because I love free periods. We were walking to class and I heard someone calling my name, and I turned around and saw Adam with his friend that accused me of lying. I turned around and kept walking to my class as I didn't want to speak to either of them, but as I did that I heard him start to speed up after me and he ran in front of me. He said he knew that I didn't want to speak to him and that he wouldn't blame me after what happened the other day, but he asked for me to give him just a minute to speak. I told him fine. He said that he wanted to apologize for the way his friend behaved and that he was sorry he didn't say anything then. He was just really embarrassed that his friend saw him being rejected. He said he was sorry for the whole situation and that he really didn't expect his friends to be there watching us, and that he would understand if I didn't forgive him, but he just wanted to clear the air. He then nudged his friend in the side and his friend looked embarrassed. He said that he was sorry too and that he shouldn't have said what he did. Part of me feels as though his apology may have been Adam's doing. But anyways, I decided to forgive them both. But not for them to have a clear conscience, but rather for myself to move on and not let it affect me. I told them that I forgave them. Adam thanked me and apologized again before he and his friend walked off to whatever class they had next. This is a no-brainer. Not the asshole. The friends were out of line. Number 1 for accusing you of lying, and number 2 for eavesdropping on what was intended to be a private conversation. They are the AHs here, not you. Lying to him and leading him on, that would have been asshole move. But you didn't do that, you presented your authentic self. That's the high road, and kudos to you for taking it. The fact that you're able to maintain a friendship with Adam suggests that he's a better person than they are, or that he doesn't believe you and is still holding out hope. Hopefully the former. Best of luck. Being a teenager is tough. Not the asshole. You did nothing wrong by being honest and respectful to him. You don't owe him a date or an explanation for your sexuality. His friends were rude and homophobic for accusing you of lying and trying to make you feel bad. You have nothing to apologize for. You handled the situation as well as you could. Don't let them get to you. You are valid and deserve respect. Not the asshole, but as a fellow lesbian, when you get older and out into the world more, it's generally safer to tell people you're seeing someone instead. You never know how a guy will react, and reading that you walked away from your friends and his friends were hiding near made me nervous. You did nothing wrong. I'm glad you were at school and just walked away. It's something to be aware of in the future. In Ta, there's literally not an easier way to handle that situation. Nah, not the asshole. Am I the asshole for leaving my surprise wedding because I felt blindsided? Last week, I, 30F, was invited to a supposedly fancy party by my longtime boyfriend, Mark, 32M. We had been dating for 5 years, and while we had discussed marriage before, there were no immediate plans for a wedding. Excited about the event, I dressed up in my best attire and arrived at the designated venue. As I entered the grand hall, I was completely taken aback to see all of our family, friends, and acquaintances gathered, eagerly waiting. It turns out, Mark had orchestrated an elaborate surprise wedding for us without my knowledge. Everyone erupted into applause as I stood there, shocked and overwhelmed. I just felt a mix of emotions. While I love Mark and had dreamed of our future together, the idea of getting married without any prior discussion or consent felt like a breach of trust. So, I pulled Mark aside and tried to express my concerns and reservations about the surprise wedding. I explained that I wanted a say in the planning process, to be part of the decision-making, and to have the chance to prepare mentally and emotionally for such a significant milestone in our lives. However, Mark dismissed my concerns, saying that he thought it would be a romantic gesture and that I would be thrilled. In that moment, I faced a difficult choice: go along with the surprise wedding, putting on a smile despite feeling unsettled, or stand up for my autonomy and voice my true feelings. I ultimately made the decision not to proceed with the surprise wedding, much to the disappointment and confusion of our guests. Now, I find myself at odds with Mark, our families, and even some of our friends who believe I overreacted and spoiled a beautiful moment. However, I firmly believe that a marriage should be a joint decision, with open communication and shared expectations. Everyone's excuse for this is I have always talked about marrying Mark. And again, the problem isn't marrying him, the problem is not having any say in my wedding. Mark thought I'd appreciate it, because I always spoke about how stressful planning a wedding must be. Yes, I think it's stressful, it is, but I'd still like planning one. After this whole ordeal, everyone asked if Mark and I were ending things, in which I replied no. I emphasized towards them, and Mark still wanted to marry him, and most feel like this is making me more of an asshole since I just wasted a perfectly fine wedding. So am I the asshole for refusing to attend my own surprise wedding, even though it was intended as a romantic gesture? Edit. I previously omitted this from my post because of the subreddit's word count guidelines. I love surprises, it's a thing everyone has known me to love. Mark, knowing that, the fact I wanted to marry him, and said wedding planning was stressful, thought a surprise wedding would be perfect. A surprise engagement is bland, because it will always be a surprise but not a wedding. Lol. He threw this wedding for the surprise, but explained how in a couple days we could do a courthouse wedding to make it legal. This was his only way to surprise me. I love spontaneity, but legal marriage or not, I wanted a say in my wedding. To choose the perfect date, to choose my bridesmaids, to pick out my cake. Again, due to these thoughts, everyone thinks I'm the asshole, because I could have went along with the party, and do a redo legal wedding. But again, I felt blindsided and confused, so I left. Not the asshole. I'd also be asking all my family and friends if they knew about this. Who told this man this was a good idea? Because it's a pure work of fiction. Because it's a pure work of fiction. Because it's a pure work of fiction. Not the asshole, he decided that he knew better than you. And made every decision for you. Except that last one. Good for you, op. I don't think this is true. But if it is, a surprise wedding is crazy, loudly crying. Not the asshole. I have a good friend whose husband did a surprise wedding. His family was from Vegas, and hers only 4 hours drive, so she thought nothing of a weekend in Vegas. Showed up to both families, a wedding dress, and so they got married that day. She regrets it. She hates the pictures, she was so surprised she said she didn't enjoy any of it, it was just there and over. 0-10, do not recommend. Am I the asshole for expecting my wife to prioritize me for Father's Day instead of going to a funeral? Edit. If you're going to comment saying she's sleeping with her boss, move on. The funeral was real. I dropped her off with some of her old coworkers so they could carpool to the funeral. The funeral was real as I saw multiple pictures of the service from mutual Facebook friends of hers. And she was there for longer because the service went longer than expected and she was asked to go to the repast. My wife and I have 2 children, a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old. Our 6-year-old is on the autism spectrum. It goes without saying that this is a very stressful position and neither of us get very much a break from this. My wife is a SOM and I have a full-time job. As happy as our children make us, I don't think it's selfish for us to both desire breaks. We get them every here and there, but we made a deal to have 2 guaranteed breaks in a year. Our birthdays and Father's Day. On those days, the one parent takes on the brunt of the burden so the other can get a day to relax. Since our youngest was about 2, we practiced this. I have never failed to give my wife the day off she deserves. I'll schedule her a spa day, or something she really wants to do, and get her out of the house so she can relax while I'm on daddy duty. Then when she gets back our kids give her cards and gifts, and we get a meal from her favorite place after they go to bed. My wife has been less consistent and doesn't really do as much as I do for her. The last year she hasn't really done anything. I typically try not to hold it against her as it is undoubtedly hard, but it does feel kind of unfair. This Father's Day, I planned something for myself as she made no indication of doing something for me. I warned her a week in advance and she said it was okay. This was until about 3 days ago. My wife's old boss's dad passed away. She was invited to the funeral by the boss and she chose to attend the funeral, which was about 2 hours away. As a result, I had to cancel all of my plans and take care of the kids. She was supposed to be home at around 5 in the evening but didn't arrive until around 10. The kids were already asleep and my wife neglected to help them get even Father's Day cards for me. We got into a huge argument when she got back. I told her that I felt like she really dropped the ball on this and didn't give me a break like I usually do for her. She told me that she's home with the kids all day just about every day and I only have to help out after work, and as far as she's concerned I regularly get a break and she doesn't. I told her working isn't a break and that I really was looking forward to today. She said that someone died and I was being completely selfish to make it about me. I said that it was someone she didn't know who was the parent of someone she hasn't seen in over a year, and I didn't think I was being selfish in asking her to prioritize my needs just as a gesture like I do hers. She's been pissed at me since and we're not talking. Am I the asshole? Edit. My wife is not sleeping with her boss. Her boss is a married gay man. Not the asshole. She went to a funeral for the father of an old boss she hasn't seen in a year and didn't get back until 10 o'clock. There is no reason to be gone all day for a funeral for someone you didn't know. I can see maybe making an appearance if she was close to her boss or other coworkers, but staying until 10 o'clock is suspect. Not the asshole, she could have said and asked if doing Father's Day break a day early or a day late. No one is invited to a funeral a day before the viewing, burial. Furthermore, she has been slacking on the commitment in prior holidays. She's being selfish and now pissed because she was called out for being such. You both decided on children. They are hard work and she chose to be a SOM. It's so tiring hearing parents to use that as leverage for anything. I was a SOM, yup, it was a pain. But that's what I chose and my husband worked like a dog. Not the asshole. I say this as a mother who is currently at home with 3 kids. I have exactly the same agreement. And not even a card after 5 hours delay. Also 4 and 6 years old. I don't know how much on the autistic spectrum your kid is, but they should be both in school at this age, so some hours at freedom she has. Number 1 predictor of divorce is contempt for the spouse. Honestly, your wife sounds burnt out and underappreciated. You wrote about how difficult it is to take care of your son who has autism. That it's so tiring you need breaks. You do realize she takes of him solo 5 days a week? That weekends are the only time she may get a break? That only 1 day off a week from it is incredibly unfair for her? She is doing the majority of the work raising him. Your job is a break from him. I'm sorry you didn't get the Father's Day you wanted. I also feel so very sorry for your wife. She's breaking down. This is her falling apart and needing help. Hiring extra help or both work part-time. There's more going on here.